If I could describe the Aposhian case in one word, that word would be deference.
Government overreach.
I say bureaucratic power.
For many years, for about the last 30 or 40 years, there has been a statute that prohibits individual possession of machine guns. And what constitutes a machine gun is fairly well defined under federal law. In 2018, the federal government decided that it would expand the definition of machine gun. It thought that bump stocks ought to be made illegal.
Our client, Clark Aposhian, was the owner of a bump stock, and he was concerned to see that something that he legally purchased had been made illegal, not by the action of anything that Congress did, but because of a new rule that was written by ATF.
He gave up his bump stock, turned it into the federal government, but at the same time, he filed a federal lawsuit trying to overturn the ban on bump stocks, and his case is now coming before the U.S. Supreme Court.
There are two major issues in this case that are worthy of the Supreme Court's attention. One of them has to do with whether or not Chevron deference, that is judicial deference to an agency's interpretation of a statute, applies when the government waives that deference.
The Justice Department and ATF disavowed the idea that they were entitled to deference. The court nonetheless said, we're not going to accept your waiver of deference. We're going to apply deference anyway. You're not entitled effectively to waive Chevron deference. And in this very case, 5 judges of the total of 11 judges in the 10th Circuit disagreed very firmly and sharply with that notion.
The second major issue in this case has to do with the rule of lenity. So if deference is going to exist in a case like this, if the court were to decide that deference is appropriate, it still needs to cope with the fact that there's an idea in criminal cases that ambiguous criminal laws are typically interpreted in favor of the criminal defendant.
There are several reasons why the Supreme Court takes cases. The most important reason is a reason that exists here, which is that the lower courts are in disarray as to what the meaning of Chevron deference is.
The most fundamental problem with Chevron is that Congress has declined to legislate clearly. Congress has effectively delegated the judicial function to interpret an ambiguous law.
It's just a matter of basic fairness. And if we interpret ambiguous statutes in a way that creates new criminal penalties for folks, we're sending people to jail for conduct that they had every reason to think was innocent conduct. And that's wrong.
This is not the first time these two issues have been before the court. And the court denied certiorari on those very same issues. But Justice Gorsuch issued an opinion in which he said these are very important issues for Supreme Court review and resolution. We hope the court's going to say, yes, it's time to clear up this confusion.
If the court rules in our client's favor in this case, it will mean a couple of things. It will mean that agencies are no longer able to get Chevron deference from courts when they don't ask for it. And it will also mean that criminal defendants can count on the rule of lenity and that ambiguous statutes won't be interpreted against them in criminal contexts.
This is a case that has sweeping potential, sweeping implications for the administrative state.
And what's at stake here isn't just this policy, it's all policy. Because if this agency can rewrite this statute, then any agency can rewrite any statute down the road.